Namaskar. Today I have a very interesting topic for you. It's about choosing the right muhurta, and this is something which is a very day to day use of jyotish in our worldly affairs. We need muhurta for many important events in our lives, be it starting a new job or a project, or griha pravesh, or basically housewarming to a new house. Okay, and any sort of ceremonies like marriage, or related to children when we have to give them names, etc. So there are innumerable uses of that. Okay. um, Travel muhurta itself is a very important thing. What is the time at which you should embark upon a travel? Okay, so there are n number of uses of muhurta, and this is from the beginning of time, from when we started delving into jyotish. There have been these three broad areas, or you may say functions, of jyotish. One is what is called as this muhurta, the other is prashna, and the third is jataka. Okay. uh, Muhurta is, as I said, about choosing the right time. Prashna is to answer specific questions. Again, that also depends upon the time when the query is put. And the third is analysis of the natal chart, which is jataka. Okay. So today we'll be uh, going into this topic, and it's a very useful thing. I will try to give practical suggestions, okay, because the topic is very vast. And let me tell you, my intention today is not to cover all the principles of finding a right muhurta. There are practically tomes, big fat books written on this topic. Okay, and it is not possible to do this in a few minutes. Okay, but what can definitely be conveyed is key aspects of how to determine a muhurta. Okay, but before that, we have to understand what exactly is a muhurta. How do you define a muhurta? Okay, uh, when we talk about things like, okay, housewarming, or traveling, maybe it's a much more easier thing to understand. The moment at which you embark upon a travel, specifically the moment at which you step outside of your house, that is the time. That is the time of that muhurta. Okay. When you have long ceremonies like marriage and all that, then sometimes it becomes a bit complicated. Depends on the customs and all that. What is the right, which particular ritual to be considered as the muhurta? Okay, but there are established conventions for this as well. Okay. um, when you say starting a new company, what is the right muhurta? um, when we say, for example, when a company is registered, right? The time at which it is registered, what is that time? So typically we can say that when you would have in front of the authorities, when you would have done the signatures, and they have accepted the documents, and that, or maybe even when the time when they have entered, typically in that registration document the exact time is also mentioned. You can take that as the time of the registration of the company. Okay. So this is how you define the muhurta. This is the time. Now, what is the importance of this? This thing can define the entire experience with that event. Suppose you embark upon a travel on a certain muhurta, that can define how that entire experience, that entire travel experience was till the time the travel continued. Okay. Suppose you are going on a short travel, you're going to go for 2 3 days and come back home. So from the time you left home to the time you came back, the entire experience was defined by that muhurta, or at which you left for the travel. uh, Suppose you're going on a long distance trip wherein you're going to stay months away from the home, then you can say the time at which the travel experience, it can be the entire period of that, say, 9 months till the time you reach home. But definitely, for sure, you can say that, from because within that 9 months you may be traveling from one place to the other place, and so on and so forth. um, this particular muhurta will definitely give you the experience from the time you have started over there from your home to to you reach that destination where you're going to spend a long time, or from where you may see other places, etc. Okay. So that would be the definition of a muhurta. And as I said, in the case of rituals like marriages, etc., you got to understand which is the specific moment which you can consider. For example, in Hindu marriages, we may say, I would say personally, that the mangalya dharana, where the mangal sutra is tied around the neck of the woman, that is when the man and woman are tied to each other in a way. So that would be the muhurta. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, it can be used for several activities. Business setting up a base or starting of anything, coronation, swearing in. This is one of the most important use of muhurta for politicians. What is the right time to take the oath and take a position, right? Then griha pravesha, travel, treatment, starting of a treatment. I am particularly careful of that. At least I don't, one thing I definitely try and do is not start treatment or an important treatment on a bad Navatara. Okay, what an Navatara is, I will explain, but for those who know, that is something I definitely look at. Now, another thing is, in Jyotish we have the 12 houses, which are called bhava. So for depending on the type of activity, for example, marriage is considered a seventh house activity. Okay, a short travel is a third house activity. Griha pravesh is griha is fourth house, so it's a fourth house activity. Depending on what is the activity, there are different bhavas governing it. Suppose you are going to do something for your child, that would be a fifth house kind of activity. Okay, so then that is called the karya bhava, because karya means activity. The bhava of that activity is called the karya bhava. Okay, this is important also. Apart from the lagna of the muhurta, this also is an important bhava which we have to look at. Now we will get into quickly the rules of this. And I just want to give a caveat. This is for auspicious activities. What am I trying to indicate? This is not for activities like, if Hitler wants to start World War II, should he go by these rules? Yes, some of the rules are applicable for all muhurtas, but certain muhurtas, certain things are not really applicable, right? For example, typically, in terms of vara, karana, tithi, and all that, you would, or nakshatra, you'll go for ugra kind of things. For a war, you may go for a rikta tithi. You may go for an ugra nakshatra. Okay, you may try to attack on a Saturn or a Mars day, and most of the battles that Hitler started was on a Saturday. Okay, in the World War II period. But we are not talking of that today. Okay, we are going to talk about auspicious activities. Let's first understand what most of us are bothered about, right? So one of the most important rules, and this is what is taught to us, is that the eighth house must be vacant. Eighth house is probably the most dire house or inauspicious house. You don't want any planets over there. I would say certainly not benefics. I think the word here I use is not even benefics. Certainly, especially not benefics is the point. This has to be slightly corrected. Okay, benefics are particularly bad over there. But you don't want any planets. You don't want a Mars, Saturn, or anything in the eighth house. Some say it is good to have Sun in eighth house and all that. I've seen one quotation. Sun, Rahu, Ketu, and one other planet, maybe Saturn, is okay if it's in 8th house, but I would not go with that, honestly. Karya Bhava must be vacant. Okay. We discussed what is Karya Bhava in the previous slide. Say 7th house for marriage, or 3rd house for a short travel, etc. For a swearing in, that would be the 10th house. So this bhava should also be vacant. Okay, these two bhavas should not have any graha, any planets over there. Karyesha is the lord of that bhava. Okay, suppose you have Aries Lagna for the muhurta, and this is a marriage muhurta, and Aries Lagna, it's a seventh house is Libra. Then Karyesha is Venus, because Venus is the lord of the seventh house. Not just because it is a Karaka. Okay, we'll come to that. I forgot to mention one aspect. Karaka also has to be strong, because for every activity there is a Karaka. For marriage, it is Venus. Okay, for travel, short travels also you would consider Venus, but for Griha Pravesh you would consider Moon. Okay, because Moon is the Karaka for the fourth house. For swearing in, let's say for a coronation, etc., Sun, because Sun is a Karaka for rulers, for a king. So you want Sun to be strong, perhaps even Mars to be strong. Depends if you want to have aggression, etc. That way, depending. For a job muhurta, Mercury has to be strong. Mercury is the Karaka for job. Okay, so on and so forth. There are Karakas for different activities. So the Karya Bhava, Karaka and Karesha, this has to be strong. Moon should not be affected, because Moon in any scenario shows the state of your mind. And if the Moon is afflicted, preferably say Moon should be alone. There should be no planets with it, not even benefics, because whatever planet is there with the Moon, that particular person or that particular kind of thing is coming and influencing you, and you don't want any sort of influences in this kind of situation. But a benefic influence is still okay, permissible, not a malefic influence certainly. Avoid Rikta Tithis. Rikta Tithis are three: Chaturthi, Navami and Chaturdashi, both in Shukla and Krishna Paksha. Okay, though the Krishna Paksha is particularly problematic, especially Navami and Krishna Chaturdashi. Krishna Chaturdashi is in fact a dosha, and I forgot to add over here also. Actually, I had added. I think that probably a later version is what earlier version is what I'm presenting, because I remember adding Amavasya also over here. So Amavasya, Chaturdashi and Shukla Pratipad, these three tithis also should be avoided. Now, this is the important thing. Lagna, that is Lagna of the Muhurta, should not be in Dusthana from the Janma Lagna. That is, in bad houses, 6th, 8th and 12th are considered bad houses. Particularly 6th and 8th, it should not be in 6th and 8th and 12th from the Lagna, the Janma Lagna of the person. Which person? The key person. Let's say if you're talking about marriage, definitely the bride. Interesting, we are talking about the bride over here, not the groom. Definitely, if you can match for both, good, but if you are finding it tough to match, definitely for the bride. Okay, from the bride Lagna, her Janma Lagna, this Lagna should not be in 6, 8, 12. For any other thing, let's say if you're talking for job or travel, whoever is going to travel, who is the key person who is traveling, for him. Okay. Nakshatra, now you may ask, okay, if a family is traveling, whose Lagna should be taken? Very tough to answer, but I would definitely say that the head of the family, the person who is going to take care of the people, who is managing the travel and who is going to take care of everyone, he should be fine. Then he can take care of the others. Okay. Nakshatra should have good Navatara. Navatara, you would know, is the from the Janma Tara of or Janma Nakshatra of a person. The 9 subsequent, including the Janma Tara itself, the 9 subsequent nakshatras are called Navatara, and it repeats in a cycle of 3, 9, 9, 9. And there is a meaning of each of those 9. What does 1 mean, 2 mean, 3 mean, etc. In this, typically 1, 3, 5, 7 are bad Navataras. That is, from your Janma Nakshatra, the Muhurta Tara should not be in 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, and in the later cycles of 9 as well. Okay, amongst the 27 nakshatras. So, for example, if your Janma Nakshatra is Ashlesha, so you should not have a Muhurta in say Purva Falguni, right? Ashlesha, Magha, Purva Falguni. Purva Falguni is the third. Fifth would be Hasta. It should not be Hasta. Seventh would be Swati, right? And certainly not Ashlesha itself. Okay. In this, the worst I would say is Swati, the seventh. The seventh is called Nidhana. Okay. Vipat could third is Vipat. Vipat means what? Um, Vipat means you get distracted. Okay, Vipat means Vipatti means something wrong happening, but really speaking, what happens is you get distracted and you take a wrong decision. Okay, you go, let's say there's a fork and you take the wrong turn. That is what it literally means. Fifth is Pratyari. Pratyari means there's some obstruction, someone is obstructing you. But seventh is the worst, Nidhana. Okay, so it is like there's a real chance of, uh, for example, you're going to start a treatment and for a person and they are in very bad shape. Please don't start it on the seventh Navatara, especially if the even leave the remaining cycles of nine. The first from the Janmatara, the immediate, the seventh one, please avoid it. Okay. Nakshatra energy should match the activity. See, each of these nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras, in fact 28 in this case, including Abhijit, are classified into 7 different types. Okay, like the 7 weekdays sort of. Okay, so they are called Mridu, Chara, Ugra, Daruna, and so on. There are different types of meaning. So they are for different types of activities. Okay, there is, for example, Sthira or Dhruva nakshatras, which is the 3 Uttara nakshatras and Rohini. So they are always very good for something which you want to do for a long period of time. So typically, if you want to say make the foundation of a temple, you want it to stand for hundreds of years, or a house also, or anything which you want to be stable and continue for a long period of time. That okay, for that you would want a Dhruva Tara. Okay. Then there are bad yogas. Okay, there are particular Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra combinations which are considered bad. There are Dagdha Tithi, Vishatiti, Hutashna Tithi, and there are Mrityu Tithi, Vinasha Tithi. There are Vinasha. There are so many different types of things that the literature is full of that. You can refer to them. That also has to be taken into consideration. So it's not a very easy topic, but in my practical experience, if I were to say, I would say focus on the first. The last one, I'm not denying it's not, like, I'm not saying it is not important. It's a very important thing. It can make a big difference, especially try and avoid Dagda Tithis and all that. Dagda means it will get burnt. Okay, recently my Guruji Sanjay ji, he showed horoscopes of nations whose constitution was established, say, during a Dagda Tithi, and or a Tithi Gandanta or something like that, and that had a very bad impact on the nation itself. So these are also important, but it is very difficult to remember all of this. Okay, not many softwares give. Deva.guru does give you what for each tithi, so it helps you a little bit. Okay, let's try and avoid. But it does, if you try to avoid everything, it will be very tough to get the right muhurta. Practical experience, I'm telling you. Okay, so this is a whole lot of theory now. Now I'll try and give you some examples that will make it enjoyable. And I have done a lot of research over here, as you can see, and I've got 3 cases for you with a lot of research and very different kinds of examples. So one is of Queen Victoria. So this was a moment when she became queen. Became queen is not getting coronated as queen. Okay, because from the time she was, her predecessor died, so she was told, people came and told, you are queen now. It was more than a year later that she was coronated. So the coronation chart is also important. And today I'm not showing that. I'm not into that. I'm talking of the moment when the key officials came to Victoria and said, you know, the king has died, and now you are the heir, you are the queen now. So, and Victoria was a very good diarist. She noted down details. In fact, her details about her coronation is also phenomenal. So here she writes, uh, this is on Tuesday, 20th of June 1837, and at Kensington Palace, London. So I was awoke at 6 o'clock by Mama, her mother, who told me that the Archbishop of Canterbury and Lord Conyngham were here and wished to see me. I got out of bed and went to my sitting room. Uh, she's describing so much over very clearly. And she was told that her uncle was no more and that I am queen. So this was the moment. So she was awoke at 6 o'clock. So I'm assuming she may have taken few minutes, at least 5 to 10 minutes. And it's a palace, it's not like everything is adjacent, so it may take some time to travel from one room to another room. So I took a liberty of maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and I think I have considered here 6:15 as the time when she would have, and maybe once she would have gone there, they would have said, you know what, the king has died, unfortunate, and then now you are the queen. So it may have taken a few minutes for all this. So hence I'm assuming at 6:15 approximately she would have been told that she is the queen. Okay, and it's fair to assume that the lagna is not in borderline, so we need not worry. Okay, between 6:05 and 6:10 lagna could have changed, etc. Don't need to worry. Lagna is fairly within in the sign of Cancer over here. Okay, now you see this. First I'll just share the entire panchanga. The vara was Tuesday. Okay, tithi is and Tuesday is not bad for this purpose, by the way. This is about becoming a king, not getting married. Okay, so Mars is not Mars. Mars is what makes the rulers of the world, by the way. Tithi is K2, that is Krishna Dvitiya. So Krishna Dvitiya is just 2 days after Purnima, so which means the moon is very strong and full, and you can see over here moon is exactly opposite the sun. Karana is Gara. Gara is ruled by Jupiter. Okay, and you can see Karana is governing the karma. Okay, the Prithvi Tattva, the material resources, is coming from the Karana. You can refer to my other videos on the topics of Tithi Pravesha, where I have explained about the Panchanga. And also on Panchanga I have a video. So the lord of Gara is Jupiter, and you can see Jupiter, exalted Jupiter in the Lagna. If I were to say the one standout feature of this event is the exalted Jupiter in Lagna, that is a key feature. Nakshatra is Uttara Ashadha. Uttara Ashadha is a Dhruva Nakshatra. Okay, so the energy is definitely matching. Uttara Ashadha is a Dhruva, it's a strong nakshatra. Okay, something lasting for a long period of time. She was one of the longest ruling British monarchs. Okay, I think at her time, I think now I think she has been superseded by Elizabeth II, but in her time she was the, I think, longest reigning British monarch. Okay, I think she ruled for 63 years, and during her time the British Empire just went up and up and up. It was that good. And yoga is Indra. Okay, now key aspect: no planet in the 8th house. Absolutely great. Okay. Now, by the way, you may argue, Uttara Ashadha Lord is Sun, and Sun is in 12th house here in Marana Karakasthana. I'll come to that. I'll explain it for sure. Okay. Moon is in a benefic sign, right? And alone. Moon is in a benefic sign. So I had said the moon should be unafflicted. It's also good if moon is in a benefic sign instead of a malefic sign. So moon is here in the sign of Jupiter, and it is alone. It is having an aspect of Rahu and Shani though, and Sun is aspecting. But you see, there is a very strong Jupiter moon parivartana over here, right? this is making both Jupiter and Moon extremely strong. Okay, so it's like as if they are in the own signs. Jupiter anyway is exalted. Okay, so this Moon is also quite strong. So her mind will be very strong, even though she may go through a lot, because Rahu and Saturn means um, there will be sadness, there will be depression. She, after 20-25 years, she lost her husband. Okay, and that was a very big setback for her. But she still continued as a monarch, and she never failed to discharge her responsibilities. Tithi is not Rikta. What was the Tithi? Oh, yeah. Tithi is Krishna Dvitiya. Very good Tithi. Ruled by Moon, by the way. Tithi is ruled by Moon. So, Moon is being strong is governing the emotions. So, there will be ups and downs in politics. It's always there. But people will largely be very positively disposed towards her. Okay. As I said, it's Sthira Nakshatra. The Tara is Atimitra Tara for her. From her Janma Nakshatra, I forget what her Janma Nakshatra was. Whatever it is, this is the Atimitra, that is the ninth Navatara. Lagna is not in Dushta from Janma Lagna. Her Janma Lagna is Taurus. And from Taurus, this is the third house. Third house is not bad. Okay. Now there are some negatives. 10th house is having Rahu. You see, we are talking of becoming a king, a ruler. So you have two important houses: the first house and the 10th house. Okay, for a ruler, you may say. So 10th house, you want it to be Shuddha. It is not, very clearly. That is not a positive thing. So she may have problems due to Rahu. Karyesha Sun we had discussed that Sun is a lord of Nakshatra, but Sun is also the Karyesha. It is in Marana Karaka Sthana. So this should have definitely caused problems. I'm sure it would have caused problems. Marana Karaka Sthana, by the word, it shows that a lot of people will die. And obviously, in the course of the ascendancy of the British Empire, a lot of people died. A lot of Indians died. So many wars happened. So many Britishers died. But there is one positive, I would say. You see, what is happening is there is a Mercury-Venus Parivartana over here. So this can change the things. Instead of, you may say 12th house impact, there will be 11th house impact. And Sun in 11th house is not bad. Okay. Also, I would say that Venus over here is Badhakesh. Right? So whenever a Marana Karaka Sthana planet joins another planet, what is really getting killed is not this planet. If it is alone, it will definitely get killed. I mean, the impact will be over there. And anyway, Sun in MKS, she didn't have any father or anyone. I'm not talking for birth chart over here. Though in her birth chart also Sun is in MKS, if I'm not wrong. But it is, that karma is showing over here also, right? But we are not talking of father here. But the fact is that the Badhaka is Venus, right? And Venus is getting affected by the Marana Karaka Sthana of Sun. Okay, so the Badhakesha is getting destroyed. Badhakesha getting destroyed is a positive thing. In fact, there's a dictum also that if the Badhakesha is in the 12th house, that will remove all Badha. Okay. So, for example, if Libra Lagna and Sun is in 12th house, okay, Narendra Modi, right, or Prime Minister, he has that, right? So all Badha is removed. So nothing will stand in front of her, as simple as that. Jupiter alone and exalted. I mean, this is a dictum by Maharishi Parashara. Jupiter alone and exalted, alone in Lagna. I'm not talking about an exalted anywhere. Okay, Jupiter alone in Lagna without any problems is itself going to remove all doshas, all this Saturn, Ketu, Rahu in Kendra, all these problems will one Jupiter, single Jupiter can remove. Okay. By the way, in I would say in her case, her Jupiter is also her husband. In a woman's chart, Jupiter is also husband. She got married very soon after. I think this was what 1837, 1838, I believe, was when she got married. to Albert, and it was a very very important thing for her, and it stabilized her a lot in those early years. Albert was a big support for her. Varesha Mars, yeah. Varesha is Mars, and see Mars anyway, as I said, will is someone who support rulers, and here Mars is very predisposed to support her because it is the Lord of 10th house in the second house. This is called Simhasana Yoga, and this is second house, so it brings lot of wealth. Okay, so this Mars will anyway make a mincemeat of this Rahu over here. Okay, this Rahu is in Mars's sign. What is Rahu, by the way? Rahu is the 8th lord and 3rd lord. Maybe some colleagues. And this Rahu is 8th house, also foreign wealth, by the way. Right. Okay. So this is about Victoria. We'll move on. I have 2 more charts. This is, you must acknowledge, it's very good research, right? And it's very tough to find this. I found it in a book. Very few people would have read this book, by the way. I must say which book it is. I don't think I mentioned it. I should have mentioned it. This book, its name is The Fated Sky. It's by Benson Bobrick. It is very nice book on history of astrology. A lot of interesting anecdotes, and in that I found and I think probably this is the oldest muhurta I know of. I don't know of any older muhurta. If anyone knows of any nice muhurtas of any important events earlier than this, please let me know. So this is July 31st 762 AD. Okay, this is the foundation of Baghdad, the city of Baghdad in Iraq, the capital of Iraq. So this was in the heyday of the Arabic civilization, when the what is known as the Islamic Golden Age, when a lot of learning was flourishing, when people were flocking to the Islamic Empire, a lot of scholars, and they were supporting a lot of knowledge. Okay, unlike today. So Caliph al-Mansur, he wanted to have the exact good muhurta to put the foundation of this city of Baghdad. It was not as if I think there were some settlements over there, but he set up this city which is known as a round city, okay, of Baghdad. And this is the exact time at 2:40 p.m. local time on July 31st 762. This was the time he set the foundation. This was not when it was opened or anything. It took a few more years, I think 2-3 more years, when it was ready, and then they moved in. Okay, and this I think is what the author of Jupiter, The Fated Sky, that is I think Mr. Bobrick, he writes this. Jupiter at the time was rising and exactly conjunct the ascendant, which happened to be in Sagittarius. The Sun in trine to Jupiter was then in its own sign Leo in the 9th house. This augured well for Baghdad's early glory as a seat of learning throughout Arab world. But Jupiter was directly opposed to Mars in the house of open enemies, indicating that it was Baghdad's fate to flourish in the field of higher learning, even as it was doomed to be undone by war. Okay. So what happened to Baghdad? Did it flourish or not? See, it did. Obviously there were a lot of positives in the horoscopes, as we will see soon, but there were a lot of challenges also. That is what even Bobrick hints over here, right? I'll come to the last line later, but let's first analyze the chart. So we have, as stated over here, Jupiter in Lagna and in trines to Sun in Leo. The key thing they wanted, in fact the astrologers wanted, was to have Sun in Leo. That was the interesting thing. They wanted Sun in Leo. Okay. But I don't like this Saturn in trines to both of them and debilitated Saturn. But let's see as per the normal principles that we discussed earlier, right? So the Panchanga first, Vara is Saturn. I was talking of Saturn. Saturn is Nicha Sthana over here. Tithi is S7. Again, Lord of that is Saturn. Shukla Saptami. Tithi Lord is Saturn. Karana is Gara. Karana Lord Jupiter. Interesting. The previous case was also Gara. and Jupiter was in Lagna. And here also Jupiter is pretty strong, albeit not the retrogression is not good. So hence there will be periods of ups and downs because of that. But it's still overall positive because it's in Sagittarius. Nakshatra Vishakha. Vishakha Nakshatra is uh, what is known as a Sadharana type of nakshatra. There are only two in this, which is Kritika and Vishakha. They are not good for this kind of activity of setting up foundation for something. They are good for what is called Agni Karyas. So any, let's say, anything involving fire, say manufacturing, or let's say doing a Havan or a Yajna, it's good for that. Okay, or even for malefic activities as well, which fall under Ugra Daruna kind of nakshatras. They are good for that. Not for this. The ruler of Vishakha is Indra Agni. Okay, Yoga is Brahma. Mercury Ketu in the 8th house. We don't want any planets in 8th house. This is not auspicious. Okay, and that too, Mercury Ketu is a bad combination. What happens with Mercury Ketu is Mercury is Prithvi Tattva and Ketu breaks the Prithvi Tattva. So it is called breaking bones yoga. So it is like breaking bones means what? For a city, what do you mean by bones? The structure of the city. Okay. During the course of the history of Baghdad, several times it was besieged. Within a few decades of its foundation, it was besieged. You may say, what's new about it? In those days, many cities would be besieged. But Baghdad suffered a lot of devastation in these sieges. Okay, till the final siege, which was a catastrophic thing. I think I had mentioned it in the previous line, previous slide. But this is very bad. Okay, I may as well say what happened eventually to Baghdad. So, in the year 1258, so 500 years, almost 500 years, okay, it was destroyed to the ground, you may say, by Mongols. Okay, though by this time, was it the same city? Because the caliphs over the years had added, cities. In fact, see, but there is this river flowing. I think it is River Tigris, which flows uh, uh, next to Baghdad. I think on the other side of the river there was another city which was made, and I think that is what was damaged by the Mongols. But nevertheless, I mean, Baghdad was depopulated for sure. I mean, citizens by the lakhs were killed. Baghdad, in its heyday, had a million, or more than a million people. More than a million people, more than 10 lakhs. I mean, can you imagine city in 9th century, 10th century having 10 lakh population? Okay, it was one of the top metropolitan cities in the world. Uh, it was having all the amenities. It was having hundreds of baths over there. Anyone can easily access a bath. You can imagine in a dry country like Iraq, that area, having water availability. So they had the technology to manage the water very effectively. Baghdad was also surrounded with rivers and all that. That way it was lucky. Um, it had beautiful buildings, gardens, and most importantly, it had libraries. Baghdad was famous for its knowledge and libraries. All that was destroyed, including the entire population by the Mongols. Okay, by I think the grandson of Chinggis Khan, Hulagu Khan. Okay, he was the one who destroyed, and so bad was the devastation that up to I think beginning of 20th century, beginning of 1900, the population of Baghdad was supposed to be 1 lakh. Imagine in around 1000 AD, it had 10 lakh population. In 1900, it had 1 lakh population. That's how badly it had come down. Okay, not just because the Mongols anyway devastated badly, but even after that there were so many wars. Okay, so you can understand this is a very dire thing. Mercury Ketu. Not just that, there is a Papa Kartari. You see, either side of this sign you have Mars and Sun. So they are what is called a Papa Kartari. Papa Kartari is like a scissors. Okay, so they are like cut. They're going to cut this Mercury Ketu combination over here, right? And cause further problems. Um, Moon is a good thing. It's in a benefic sign and alone, maybe aspect of Saturn and nothing else. It doesn't have a benefic aspect though, which is what I would have liked. But it's in a benefic sign. Yeah, so far so good. So yes, there is some, you know, it's not altogether bad, right? Because Baghdad did last for centuries. 10th bhava, that is 10th house is Shuddha. That's a very nice thing. Nakshatra Vishaka, I said, is not suitable. It is not Rikta. Karesha, sun is well placed. And I think in the Bobrik also mentioned this, Jupiter in trines to Sun. That's a very nice yoga though. Okay. Except for the Saturn also being in trines to them. Biggest problem, Mars in 7th house. Mars in 7th house is in Marana Karakasthana, in a death inflicting position. Okay. And it is with Venus. When Mars is with Venus, it's like a fire and water combination. It's called a Gandhanta combination. So unless these two planets, one of them is having some strength, exaltation or own sign, it's not a good thing. Okay. So you can see how bad this combination is, right? And the impact of this. Let's move on. I have a very good, interesting example now of Chandrayaan 3. Okay. And here we will face our first contradiction against our rules. And I am presenting this contradiction to you. So Chandrayaan 3 is the third mission of the lunar exploration, which was recently completed by ISRO. It was launched in July of this year and was completed successfully in August, end of this year, August 23rd, I believe. Basically, it had to ensure that a lander called Vikram lands on moon in the south pole of the moon, which was till now no one has gone near the south pole. No one has been able to land near the south pole of the moon. And it's the dark side of the moon, something which we cannot see from here. Okay, because moon is tidally locked, we can't see the other side of the moon. So it had to land this lander called Vikram, and from that a rover called Pragyan would come out, and then both I think the lander and the rover, they would be doing some experiments, they'll be doing some studies, observations will be made, which would be relayed back to Earth, that is to the ISRO center. So this was a very successful thing. It was not just successful, it's also beyond success, it was prestigious for our country. Today this is a matter of pride for us. You know, we are amongst the only 4 nations to have the capability to have their spacecraft land on the moon. Okay. So one second, I believe there's some issue with my camera, but I will continue. There were some experiments conducted, etc. Let's go into the muhurta. Okay. Straight away, I'll say Sun in the 8th house. How is this possible? Successful mission, Sun in 8th house. Okay, Vara was Venus, Tithi is K12, Karana Taitila, Nakshatra Rohini. This is very nice because Rohini is, you see, we are talking Chandrayaan, a probe to the moon, and moon's favorite nakshatra, moon's favorite wife is Rohini. So they did pick a good one in yoga, Vriddhi yoga, very nice yoga. Sun in 8th house, successful. Why? Okay, let's see the other things before we get into this. First Lord in 10th house. This Scorpio Lagna, Lord Mars in 10th house. 10th house for Mars is in Digbala. Digbala means direction strength. So, which means this Lagna is indicating the intelligence of the people who are planning all of this and who are executing this. So, their intelligence is the right direction. It's working pretty well. Tithi K12, Lord Mercury, is in the 9th house. Okay, which is very nice. Mercury in the 9th house. In the sign of moon, maybe not so good. Badakasthana not so good, but it's still well placed. Okay, that's a good thing. And its dispositor is moon, which is very strongly placed and is having an aspect also on this. Okay. By the way, Mercury is considered as the son of moon. Okay. So Masuta. Nakshatra Rohini, that's very nice, isn't it? And what does Nakshatra govern? Nakshatra governs the Vayu Tattva. And we are talking of a spacecraft. It has to move a long distance through Vayu. Okay. For movement, you need Vayu energy, Vayu blessing. Okay. So Nakshatra was definitely a very important part of the aspect of the Panchang over here, and they selected a very good Nakshatra, Rohini. Ninth house. Okay, why is ninth house important? You see, okay, what is the Karya Bhava for this? What should be the activity over here? The house governing the activity. So, a good question. You see, we are talking of a travel. Okay, now travel is governed by third house if it's a short travel, by ninth house if it's a long travel. Okay, even 12th house if you say a travel abroad. So it can be either ninth house or 12th house. Okay, now out of this I'm saying ninth house definitely looks very positive, because you have a benefic Mercury over here and the Lord Moon is exalted. So both of this are doing very well. Okay. Uh, Now, what is a Karyesha? What is a Karaka for space travel? Okay. Now, I think it is Ketu. Okay, because in terms of directions, uh, we have 8 planar directions and one up and one down. The up direction is governed by Ketu. Okay, Ananta is the Digpala for that. So up direction is governed by Ketu. Hence, when we talk of spacecrafts, rockets, everything, or even people who are becoming astronauts, etc., Ketu is the key thing, planet which we see for that. Okay, and that is how is Ketu over here? Ketu is not in a. I mean, it's a benefic sign, very nice. It's in 12th house, not that bad. Okay, it's not like it's in 6th or 8th house, but it's not a great position either. Hmm? But one positive I would say is the aspect of Jupiter on Ketu. That's very good. Jupiter Ketu, while it's not a yoga, but Jupiter Ketu, if there's a yoga, it's called Parampara Yoga. Parampara means not blessings of tradition. Okay, so obviously ISRO built Chandrayaan is number 3. There was Chandrayaan 2, there was Chandrayaan 1, and there's so much of knowledge that they have, right from the time of Vikram Sarabhai onwards, that they have taken in, and which has helped them to come to this level where they are able to launch a space probe which lands very well on the moon. Okay. The 10th house, okay, we need, if for success, accomplishment, we need the 10th house. Okay, and Jupiter is aspecting the 10th house, that's a positive thing. Okay, now, but let's come to the key aspect over here. Sun is in the 8th house. That's not good. What does 8th house really do? You see, 8th house, if planet is there in the 8th house, then things end before you want them to end, and hence the activity is unsuccessful. Hence, some objective that you had would not have been satisfied. Okay. Now, to the best of my knowledge, and maybe if there's any scientist who is seeing this who has better know-how on this matter, can tell me whether all the objectives that ISRO had set out to has got achieved or not. Because on whatever I have researched, I think all the objectives, whatever they had wanted to, has got satisfied, and they had planned, okay, this is what is going to happen. Because the entire thing is that after it was supposed to have landed when moon had its daytime, okay, which lasts for around 14 Earth days, and after that there's a long period of night, so where the spacecraft will not get any energy, its batteries will die down and the temperatures plummet down. So it was entirely dependent upon whom? On sunlight, on the sun, because moon day, right? So sun was did have a say in determining the longevity of this probe. But having said that, it was successful, right? Which is something very difficult to explain with a planet in 8,000. Although I must also tell you openly over here, I have read, okay, and somehow in my updation I had updated the slide, but it didn't reflect over here. But not this slide, the first slide where I had said what are the how to choose the right muhurta, the parameters. So in as I had said earlier also, Sun, Rahu, Ketu and Saturn, some commentators say that they can be there in the 8th house. It's not bad if they are in the 8th house. That is also one viewpoint, though that is not what I have learned from my parampara. So how would I look at it? I'm sharing with you my viewpoint, and this is a very valid viewpoint. We do look at things in this way. So there is something called a Graha Malika over here. Graha Malika means a garland. Okay, when lot of planets line together in a succession, in successive houses, successive signs. Okay, and here we include Rahu and Ketu also. But minimum 5 signs have to be occupied, 5 or more. Then it is called a Graha Malika. Okay, now here we see that 5 signs are occupied, and we have we should have more than 7 planets. So we have 1 2 3 4 5, yeah, we have 7 planets over here. Okay, it can be 6 or more also, if I remember clearly, 6 or more should be there. So we have 7 planets in 5 signs. This is the Graha Malika. What does the Graha Malika do? It hijacks the chart in a way. You have a regular lagna, but the Graha Malika says, I don't care that lagna. I have a say over here. And what is the lagna of this Graha Malika? From where it starts. So here it starts in Aries. So this is the Graha Malika lagna. So from here, if you see, the 8th house is free. There is no problem. And this is especially important, Graha Malika related lagna. It's especially important in matters governing timing, longevity, etc. And we are talking about longevity and all that specifically over here. So that is in my opinion. It's in my opinion that why, despite this thing, now one may argue, because see, Rahu and Jupiter stay in a sign for a long period of time. But you see, this Graha Malika need not be there, because you see, once moon moves on, this Graha Malika will break. So it's so interesting that the moon was here. If there was no moon here, because moon is something which can move in every 2.5 days, it will move from one sign to another sign. So just a day before, moon would have landed over here, and it would have remained there for maybe another day. So they exactly found the right time when the moon was over here, and then there was this Graha Malika. And this makes a big difference. And the starting and ending, you have Jupiter and Venus over here, who are very strong, positive, benefic grahas. And okay, may I argue there is Rahu and Mars as well. But Jupiter and Venus can easily take on more than 3 malefics. 3 malefics for sure. If Jupiter and Venus are together, they can easily take on even 3 malefics. These are 2 only. Okay. So maybe you can add Saturn. If you add Saturn, because Saturn is aspecting this sign and aspecting to this sign, both these signs, even if you add them, it's 3. So that is, in my opinion, why Chandrayaan, besides there are some other positives, the moon exalted, etc. The 10th house having a Digbala planet. Mars is very strong, and Mars is a Lagnesha, so it is their intelligence. These scientists, we must credit our scientists. They are very intelligent. They have accomplished a great thing for us, and at such a small budget. That is what is one has to admire. Okay. Excuse me. So is there anything else I want to add over here? No, nothing more. Thank you so much. uh, I'm very pleased that you've been able to be here with me for so long. um, hope this was a very entertaining and knowledgeable exercise for all of you. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Namaste.